Hey guys, welcome back to Games of War. Today's episode we're going to take a look at some really underrated games on the PlayStation 2 in the Shining Force family of games. For those of you that follow the channel, you know that I'm a big Shining Force fan. I own every game in this series, I've completed every one of them, and I was really happy to see the series continue on the PlayStation 2. Now they weren't strategy RPGs nor first-person dungeon crawlers, but a brand new set of action RPGs. The first one to be released was Shining Tears. Now this was back in 2005, I remember it clearly because it was the same day that God of War came out. Now upon getting the game home, popping it in, I was blown away by the beautiful opening cinema. It featured great artwork, some stunning music, introducing you to the characters and showing you the land in which the game takes place. Now in a somewhat cliche opening, you play as a character named Zion who is washed upon a beach in Heroes Way. You have no idea how you got there or who you are, only that your name is Zion. Now you are rescued by an elven girl named Elwyn. She takes you to the doctor of Heroes Way. Upon arrival, they find a set of rings in your possession. Now these rings can't be taken off. After some examination and some research, they find out that these are the legendary twin dragon rings, which grant some insane powers to the one who owns them. Now as your character gets better and you start to learn of the world you're in and what's going on, you take part in the war in defending the kingdom against the Runegeist army. At its core, this game is a action RPG, kind of a top-down three-quarter view, but the camera's pulled way back to allow for a ton of enemies on screen. Everything is hand-drawn, animates beautifully, and the art style is very distinct. A very good-looking game with some epic music. Now the flow of the game works that at the beginning of battle, you get into some character dialogue, features stunning 2D portraits that animate with expression. You meet different characters, and then you go on to the mission using Zion and another character. Now some missions you're able to choose which character you want to use. You meet awesome allies such as Lazarus, who's like a half dragon, half man. You meet Vlog, who is a half wolf, half man. Tons of personality to these characters, and you must strengthen these relationships. The more you play with a certain character, the stronger their bond will be, and it will actually alter the storyline depending on how developed your relationships are with a certain character. Now on top of this, you also have the dragon rings. Now just when the odds are stacked against you and you think you can't win, you put these rings on, and it, depending on which character you have with Zion, you'll get a different effect. Now it can alter the personality of your character to where in the beginning Zion's kind of a timid guy. He puts this ring on, in combination with certain characters he will like turn mad with bloodlust and has killing on the brain, and it comes through in the dialogue, and you never know which kind of combination that's going to set up with the rings with different characters. This adds to some awesome replay value depending on the branching paths you take with which characters. The battle system works very well in this game. It's very simple, nothing complicated. You can hack and slash, you've got very minimal combos, you can hold the button down for a charge attack, you've got magical attacks, and the enemies drop gold, they drop items you can sell for gold, they drop different weapons that you can equip, different armor. As always with action RPGs, you can equip different things that boost your stats, get different magical spells, level up. The game sports multiple endings depending on which characters you've used throughout the game. All the locations and different stages are nicely varied. They all have a great graphical look to them. The hand-drawn effect overall is very striking for this game. It's a very lengthy quest. I found myself very much enjoying Shining Tears. I think it's a very overlooked action RPG on the system. A lot of people didn't give the game a chance because it wasn't a strategy RPG. But if you're into action RPGs, this is a great first effort on the PlayStation 2. Definitely check out Shining Tears. The next game to be released in the Shining series on PlayStation 2 came later on that year at the end of 2005. We got Shining Force Neo. While still an action RPG, it differs from Shining Tears in a number of ways. First being, the game is no longer co-op. It is a strictly single-player, more story-focused adventure, no more branching paths, a set storyline. It also ditches the hand-drawn, hand-animated look of Shining Tears for a more light cel-shaded, almost CG look. The results are mixed. It's still a very good-looking game, yet a little bit generic at the same time. Now the game once again opens up with a fantastic opening scene. Everything is very well animated, some great music in there. Now the storyline is actually loosely based on the first Shining Force game. Now long ago, the Clan of the Moon is an evil organization that took over the world, ravaged the land, killed a lot of people, almost brought the world to an end. It was the efforts of a combined group of heroes called the Force to banish this Clan of the Moon and return peace to the land. In typical role-playing game fashion, many years have passed, the world is once again at peace, its inhabitants have long forgotten the Clan of the Moon and the destruction they caused. As you begin the game, you're playing as a young man named Max who is currently taking the ordeal of the Force, passing tests to become a member of the legendary Shining Force team that is still protecting the Earth to this day. Now as your training is near complete, you are being accepted into the Force. All of a sudden you are attacked by monsters. You talk with your captain, you rally up and dispatch of these enemies without much of a problem. And then it is your duty to return home to inform your family that you have been accepted as a member of the Shining Force. Now after another beautiful cutscene depicting you traveling back home, you meet with your father, who is a captain of the guard of the town. You tell him that you've made the team of the Shining Force. Your father is rather unhappy with this decision. He does not want you to be a soldier and fight your entire life, but it's in your blood as Max to be a soldier. Now, one of the things you'll notice right away about this game is that it has got some downright awful voice acting. Some of the worst I've ever heard, in fact. I don't know who they got to perform the voices for this game, but it is laughably bad.
Yeah! That's Gaia Nova! Wow! That's Gaia Nova? The magic attack?
Cease all training.
Max! Where are you, Max? Oops.
What's the situation? Any sign of the enemy?
Nope, it's pretty quiet.
Well, don't let your guard down, boy.
A lot of people might find this distracting from the game. To me, it had me laughing throughout most of the game. The problem is, it was supposed to be dead serious. If bad voice acting turns you off, you're going to have a problem with this game. Myself, I really find it humorous. Bad voice acting cracks me up, and I really enjoyed the story in this game. They put a lot of effort and thought into the story, and the production value is outstanding. Many cinemas accompany the gameplay and the story twists and turns. Really high quality stuff. Now in terms of gameplay, this is a hack and slash RPG, very similar to Record of Lodoss War or even Diablo. There's tons of different enemies, over 70 to 80 different types of enemies. You can hardly see the same enemy twice. Tons of weapons to master, all kinds of cool force arts, which are this game's version of like special moves. You learn some awesome maneuvers, some great combos, charge attacks. All the different weapons have on-screen change, so when you equip to a spear, you're going to be holding a spear or a big giant sword. All kinds of cool stuff to find. Enemies drop loot. They drop weapons, they drop armor. Everything can be equipped and changed, so you're always going to be equipping the next best gear. Very addictive finding the new stuff. And overall, this is just a very solid action RPG. I liked the story from start to finish. A very lengthy quest, 40 hours easily. Great locations. The story kept me riveted to the very end. Twists and turns. This is a very overlooked game. A lot of people just didn't pay attention to this when it came out. And it's a shame, because this is a very enjoyable action RPG. It does everything right that it should, and I think it lives up to the Shining Force name in every way. Shining Force Neo is a great step up from Shining Tears, and a very enjoyable, epic action RPG. Definitely check this game out. The final game to be released in the Shining series on PlayStation 2 came at the end of 2007. This is Shining Force EXA. Now this game is a successor to Shining Force Neo, so it features the same gameplay mechanics and action RPG battle system as Shining Force Neo. However, that being said, Shining Force EXA is without a doubt the best game in the Shining series on the PlayStation 2, and overall one of my favorite games on the system. Yes, my friends, it is that good, a masterpiece for sure. Let's talk about why. Very much like Shining Tears and Shining Force Neo, EXA opens up with a very impressive cutscene. Everything is drawn beautifully, and there's some great music going on. If there's one thing I can say about these three titles, they have some of the best orchestral music I've heard in video games. Beautiful stuff. Now Shining Force EXA really pulled me in early on due to the similarities in another tale that I've always loved, and that's King Arthur and the Sword and the Stone. At the onset of this game, the world has been at war. There's two nations, one in the north, one in the south. The north being Nazwald, made up of humans, and the south being Fireland, land of the demons. And upon this war going on in the backdrop, you've got a young group of adventurers led by Toma and Cyril. Now these two have been searching for the Shining Force, and the Shining Force is a legendary blade hidden away by time, said to grant the person that finds it true power and the ability to rule the land. Next to Toma and Cyril, you've got great supporting characters like Maybell, who is an elf that is trying to find the Shining Force to save her race of people. The elves are near extinction and they're fighting for their lives. And you've got Gadford, who is a high-ranking officer of the Nazwald army. Together, these adventurers have been trying to find the Shining Force. No luck has prevailed yet. Now, at the onset of the game, while exploring some ruins, Toma does the unthinkable. He is able to find Shining Force. The whole group tries to pull the sword, none are successful until Toma tries, he's able to pull the sword. After acquiring Shining Force, having the power and the potential to rule the world, Toma also inherits the Geofortress. Now this is an aspect of the game that totally caught me off guard, a very deep addition to the game. Think of Geofortress as a character in a role-playing game, one that must be leveled from the ground up, properly cared for, and restore all of its functions to this fortress. Now this fortress is a kind of hub of sorts for your characters. Whether you're playing as Toma or Cyril, you might be summoned back to the fortress as it comes under attack from enemies. You must return to the Geofortress, kill these enemies off, and take their minerals and rewards, things they've dropped, use that to strengthen your fortress, restoring functions such as being able to travel anywhere on the world map. You're able to train and recruit allies in this fortress. You're able to open up some of its vacant rooms and have vendors in there to sell you weapons, sell rare items. This fortress is like a living entity that must be properly nurtured back to its full form in different stages. This is a very addicting aspect to this game. I had a ton of fun kind of building this fortress to suit my needs. All while the game is taking place, you're out there taking quests, learning more about this war, finding out which side is worth fighting for. You've got your Geofortress that's constantly needed to be tended to. Now you think this might be tedious, but it's woven into the gameplay so expertly that it becomes such an addicting experience caring for your fortress and leveling it up. And seeing this fortress go from nothing to having all of its functions restored is truly an awesome feeling. It's a great addition to the game. Now in terms of visuals, this game has Shining Force Neo beat by a long shot. It ditches the kind of generic look for a more cel-shaded, heavily black lines, almost like a watercolor look like Valkyria Chronicles. Very soothing to the eyes. The game looks great. The battle system has kind of been expanded. You've got some awesome charge attacks. You've got tons of different weapons that you can equip that have different combos for each weapon. If you choose to use Cyril, she's a master of magic, so learning tons of different spells and different books, different areas of magic. Two gameplay styles come together to form an awesome battle system, and then there's the fortress that will constantly pull you back, have to tend to that aspect of the game. This all combines to form an excellent action RPG, very addictive gameplay. One of my favorites on the PlayStation 2, Shining Force EXA, was an excellent way to close off the series on the PlayStation 2. A very underrated game for sure. I hope you guys have enjoyed taking a look back at the PlayStation 2 releases in the Shining Force family. I really hope this series continues on in some form. I hope you haven't seen the last of it. Thank you for watching. GamezOfWar is nothing without you.